Hi there, this is functions for grade 12. In grade 11, you learned that a function is a rule or it's a formula which links the input to the output, that is the input x to the output y. And this rule, for it to be a function, this is for grade 12, the rule should give only one output value for each input value. So that is the condition for that rule to be a function. And then for grade 12, this is for grade 12, the inverse of a function, that is a rule that follows the opposite procedure to the original function. So if the function was saying y is equal to 2x, the inverse will say y is equal to x over 2. This one is saying the input is being multiplied by 2. The inverse procedure there, the input is being divided by 2. Now, how do we determine the inverse of a function? There is few steps. There is few steps that we can follow. For example, we have f of x is equal to 2x plus 4. This is the notation for a function, and then the notation for the inverse, that is f of negative 1, that is f raised to negative 1. So this is the inverse function, that is equal to the steps that you follow. The step number 1, we need to write this in terms of y. So this is y is equal to 2x plus 4. And then step number 2, you need to swap these two variables x and y. So we have x is equal to 2y plus 4. That is the second step. And then the third step, you need to make y the subject of the expression by taking this 4 to the left and the 2 also to the left. So the x minus 4, the inverse procedure of adding 4 is subtracting 4, and then the inverse procedure of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2, and then we are left with your y there. So this is the inverse. So we write it here. The inverse of this function is x minus 4 all over 2. You could write it as is equal to, separate this, is x over 2 minus 4 over 2. That will be minus 2, ne? Is equal to 1 over 2x minus 2. This is exactly the same. So that's how you determine the inverse of a function. These are the 3 steps that you follow. Let's just do one other question. If the function there is f of x is equal to negative x squared plus 1, negative x squared plus 1, the first step is to write it in terms of y, that is y is equal to negative x squared plus 1, and then the next step is to swap these two. So this is going to be x is equal to negative y squared plus 1. Remember, you are swapping the variables, only the x and the y, not the sign or the squared. So when you have this, now you can make y the subject of the expression. The y is negative. Let's take it to the other side. We have y squared is equal to the x. Let's take it to the right, negative x plus 1. I've just taken the y to the left and the x to the right, and then this is squared. To get rid of this squared, we put square root. So is y is equal to, when you put square root, don't forget to put plus or minus. So this is minus x plus 1, which we can write as y is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1 minus x. I've just started with a 1, so it's 1 minus x. There we are, and then we can write it as is equal to that. But we are going to look at this later on. Some of these relations, let's call them relations, some of these, when you have looked for the inverse sometimes won't be a function, but we are going to look at inverses like that later on, where the inverse is not a function, the inverse of a function. That's all for this one.